Yeah, man, I'm back. I'm gonna kind of follow up with the issues I was talking about with the youth, and this particular video will be about teenage sex and high schools giving condoms out to students. Now, this is not a new issue, but I think it needs to be rehashed. We need to talk about it again because in this current time in America, I think that may resurface as a problem. Economic problems we have. The country is in a state of underlying chaos, if I can say that. And we're just gonna go over some theories or what people believe about condoms. Now, this is from November the 4th, 2013, by a journalist, Amanda Marcotte. It's titled "The Time Has Come: Free Condoms in Every High School." Making free condoms available in schools is an idea that has long been bandied about on the right as evidence of the supposed excesses of liberal ideology. Take, for example, the hysterical coverage of rubbers in New York schools from conservative rag the New York Daily News, which breathlessly reported that the back-to-school collection includes Rough Rider studded condoms as well as King XL, extra strength, ultra sensitive, ultra thin, ribbed, and assorted flavors. You start to get the impression that the reason conservatives think high school students get sexually aroused at the mere sight of a condom is because they do themselves. Well, the idea that condoms should be made available free to teenagers isn't really a radical leftist idea anymore, if it ever was. Last week, the American Academy of Pediatrics, hardly a subversive communist organization, issued a policy statement supporting the notion that kids who want condoms should be able to get them discreetly and affordably, preferably at no cost. Schools should be considered suitable sites for condom distribution, the statement read, adding that pediatricians should emphasize to parents the importance of educating their children about condom use. The AAP knows some parents are afraid this will be read as permission to have sex, but as the group noted, kids who have access to condoms and condom education do not have sex sooner. In fact, nearly half of studies show that kids who have condom access have sex later than their peers who don't have it. That may seem counterintuitive at first, but it actually makes sense if you think about it. Kids who live in a more sexually liberated environment are more likely to have sex on their own terms rather than because of peer pressure or a desire to prove they're rebellious. In addition, kids who live in an environment that is supportive of their sexuality instead of hostile to it may be more inclined to use oral sex and mutual masturbation in order to delay intercourse, whereas kids who don't have a good idea that those are options might rush into intercourse first. I'll come back to that paragraph. Note that facts will do much to stem the tide of disapproval from the right about the growing trend of schools, particularly in dense cities, making condoms available to students. Sending a message of disapproval about sex is clearly more important to many on the right than actually protecting the health and well-being of teenagers, and it appears to be more important even than making sure the message is received in the same spirit it was intended. But for those who really do put a priority on health of teenagers, the AAP's announcement is a big boost to efforts to get more condoms available to teenagers who need them. I'll come back to that too. According to the AAP, rates of syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia have been rising over the past decade, even as teenager pregnancy rates are falling. 1 in 5 new HIV infections is in someone aged 13 to 24. Kids are getting smarter about preventing pregnancy, but when it comes to sexually transmitted infections, there's clearly a gap. The reason why shouldn't be too hard to figure out. It can be difficult when you are young to deal with often delicate situation of explaining why you want to use condoms without causing a oversensitive partner to assume you're accusing them of being dirty. No one is going to get bent out of shape because you believe their body plus your body could equal a pregnancy. But sadly, some people, especially if they're still inexperienced, think the desire to use a condom means a lack of trust. Now, I'm going to stop for a minute, and I'm going to talk about the statements the AAP makes about this particular issue. Schools should be considered suitable sites for condom distribution, the statement read, adding that pediatricians should emphasize to parents the importance of educating their children about condom use. Now, it says schools should be considered suitable sites for condom distribution. Why would schools be considered suitable sites for condom distribution? Well, here's the thing. This is what the AAP and pro-condom distribution in schools would say. Well, teenagers in school, they have their girlfriends, their boyfriends, they're becoming sexually curious, they're becoming sexually aroused, and we're trying to at least protect them from sexually transmitted diseases, pregnancies, and, well, here's the thing. This is what the parents' job is. The parents' job is to educate their teenagers about sex. Schools should not have any part of that. To say that we have sexual education classes in schools now, you're basically saying the parents are not educating their children about sex. There's no need for, and I know people get stuck in the logic behind sexual education in class, but you need to use that logic and say, why aren't the parents educating their teenagers about sex? It shouldn't come from a stranger's perspective. It should come from the family. To say that a school should educate your child about sex before you do is an insult to parenthood. Basically, you have taken the parents' ability to guide their children into the right way of living, to making the right decisions in life. Who taught them right from wrong? Some things they were innately taught, but their parents taught them right from wrong when they were kids, right? When they become teenagers, in this modern society we have, the school feels the need to teach your children about sexual education. Why would they feel the need to teach your children about sexual education unless they are trying to, what? Provoke sex with your teenager. Now, I'm going to go to another point that this journalist, Amanda Morcote, states. It says that the sending a message of disapproval about sex is clearly more important to many on the right than actually protecting the health and well-being of teenagers. And it appears to be more important even than making sure the message is received in the same spirit it was intended. The spirit that it's intended is basically to send a message to the students, the teenagers in the schools, that it's okay to have sex as long as you protect yourself. Now, the school is saying that when they offer condoms. Now, they say kids who live in a more sexually liberated environment, which basically means you have teenagers that are sexually more active, but they use the term sexually liberated as if that's a positive spin on teenagers having sex. Kids who live in a more sexually liberated environment are more likely to have sex on their own terms rather than because of peer pressure or a desire to prove they're rebellious. Well, of course, because if they're sexually independent, in the sense that that's what liberation means, sexually liberated, I'm sexually free to do what I want. So that means that parents are not involved, right? That they're more likely to have sex on their own terms, as if they're adults. They're teenagers. How can they have sex on their own terms? But let's keep it moving. In addition, kids who live in an environment that is supportive of their sexuality instead of hostile to it may be more inclined to use oral sex and mutual masturbation in order to delay intercourse, whereas kids who don't have a good idea that those are options might rush into intercourse first. Now, what teenager wouldn't know about oral sex or masturbation? See, what this study is avoiding is the teenager that's curious about having sex, the teenager that wants to have sex for a image, a reputation, and the teenager that just flat out wants to have sex because they feel, they're horny, they're this and that, and not want to do it. That's the sexually liberated teenager. But it doesn't say that. It says whereas kids who don't have a good idea that those are options might rush into intercourse first. What teenager on this planet does not know about oral sex or masturbation? This is a bogus study. Now let me get back to another key point. The AAP knows some parents are afraid this will be read as permission to have sex. But as the group noted, kids who have access to condoms and condom education do not have sex sooner. In fact, nearly half of studies show that kids who have condom access have sex later than their peers who don't have it. Now, I believe that's also a bogus study. If you give a 17-year-old, actually that's apples and oranges. That's the wrong you can't compare that. But I'm just gonna do it anyway. If you give a 17-year-old condoms, you're telling me they're just gonna wait to use them? Or would they be more likely to use them? Actually, I don't think there's a difference in sexual activity between the person that has the condom and the one that doesn't have the condom. I think they both are highly sexually active. See, the condoms that are presented, it's not about actually having sex. It's about protecting yourself while having sex. This is why they're giving you the condoms. That's what the condom is used for, to protect yourself and your partner. It's not hinting at them practicing abstinence or saving themselves for when they graduate and all of these types of things. The condoms that you are giving them these condoms under the theory that they will have sex. And you're saying, well, we want to protect them. We want to help protect them. But once again, the parents are the arbitrators of that. The parents are the authority of that, not the schools. So my theory, and I know it may sound strange to a lot of people, but my theory is, I believe these schools want these teenagers to have sex. And if you go down that rabbit hole, you'll say, well, of course, this is why they're giving them condoms. Did you know that there have been stories that, well, it's already stated that the students, the teenagers, are getting condoms without their parents' knowledge. from the schools.